In today's How It Works, we'll be going over modules. In my previous How It Works, when we went over the hit points in World of Warships, I mentioned this video where I needed to do the hit point video first before stepping into the module video, because the modules are a more in-depth mechanic of the game, talking about the main guns, engine room, secondaries, anti-air. It's a lot more in-depth. So if you haven't watched that video already, make sure to do that. But if you have already, okay, so we're gonna be watching this video. It's about 5 years old. It's pretty out of date. So I'll be going over and updating the information on this video, as well as adding in tidbits and information I've learned over time as well. So let's get started.
In the last episode of How It Works, we told you about ship components, how complex ship structures are modeled in our game, what an HP bar is, and how armor-piercing shells deal damage. Today, we're going to talk about over-penetrations and ship modules. We advise you to watch the first episode beforehand if you haven't done so already.
And that's the video I just mentioned. So if you haven't already, make sure you're gonna watch that. But if you already have, then you're good.
In World of Warships, just like in reality, there are various ways in which shells and torpedoes can inflict damage to other vessels. Impacts can cause damage to specific parts of a ship, and they can result in fires, over-penetrations, and flooding, which don't inflict damage to a particular ship part, but to the entire HP bar.
Over-penetrations through a destroyed bow end or superstructure will deal 10% of the shell's damage to the ship, just as a standard penetration would. If an over-penetration connects with an undamaged bow end, no damage will be dealt to it or the hull. Inflicted damage will be subtracted from the HP bar.
That is correct. Even though it sounds confusing, it is correct.
It's possible for a ship to be destroyed with just over-penetrations, but in this case, the ship's individual parts wouldn't lose any HP. However, destroying a ship like this would simply take too long.
What we have is a system comprising, on one hand, of an in-game model that represents the structural complexity of a real warship with different values for her parts and compartments, and on the other hand, a wide variety of ways in which you can destroy the ship.
We should also mention another important feature of ship structures. A ship isn't just her superstructures, ends, citadels, and casemate. What about her main battery, torpedo launchers, AA defenses, and secondary armament?
These are all modules. In other words, ship parts that are responsible for specific game functions. When you damage, temporarily disable, or entirely destroy them, you reduce an...
You can no longer entirely destroy modules. So anytime in this video, if they mention anything about completely destroying any type of module, that is no longer a thing. And I'll go into detail on that whenever they talk about it.
enemy ships' capabilities of firing and maneuvering, giving you a noticeable advantage in battle.
All modules are divided into external and internal types. External modules are the main battery, torpedo launchers, AA defenses, and secondary armament. Together, these comprise a ship's firepower. Internal modules are the steering gears, responsible for a ship's maneuvering capabilities, engine room, responsible for thrust, and magazines, where the ammo is stored, which, if hit by a shell, can detonate and instantly destroy a ship.
Okay, magazines, the detonation mechanic is no longer a thing, so ignore that. These boxes are still here, but they still count as citadels, like citadel areas. So if you hit these areas, you can still do citadel damage.
For our models, in order to recreate the structural complexity of real warships more accurately so that a player's ship can continue battle even after losing some modules, every module has its own amount of HP, hit points, that aren't connected to the ship's overall HP whatsoever.
Let's refer to our battleship Fuso one more time in order to review how damage is dealt to modules. Her single main turret has 7,500 HP. Let's take an armor-piercing shell that deals out exactly 1,000 damage when it precisely hits a main turret of the Japanese battleship.
After the shell hits and penetrates the turret, 10% of the shell's damage is subtracted from the turret's HP, 100 hit points in this case. After that, the same amount of damage is dealt to the total HP bar of the battleship due to turret being an external module. The same will happen if a shell hits the part of a turret's barbette that's on the hull's exterior.
Yep.
Exceptions for this rule are the AA defenses. Armor-piercing shells cannot harm them.
Okay, so talking about anti-air, so in World of Warships as of now, anti-air and secondaries, all of those mechanics in particular, they can be temporarily destroyed, but they can come back. So anti-air, if you destroy like an anti-air gun with HE, it can come back 150 seconds after, and it comes back at 100% HP. For secondaries, if you destroy a secondary gun or a secondary turret, it will come back 90 seconds after it's been destroyed at 75% HP. So you can always get your secondaries and anti-air back over time.
Only high explosive shells can deal damage to AA defenses.
That is also true.
Another important aspect is that if a shell explodes against the main battery barbette part that's inside the ship's hull, the turret will have 10% of the shell's damage deducted, while the HP bar will lose the amount of damage dealt to the part of the hull part where explosion occurred. As a rule, it's a casemate and the entire hull, so 1/6 of the shell's damage to both the casemate and hull. Therefore, the ship's HP bar loses 1/3 of the shell's damage in total.
Yep, that's correct.
Finally, the chances for a critical hit are calculated. If Fuso is unlucky, a penetration may disable the main turret temporarily. It won't be able to fire or turn for 25 to 30 seconds if it's not repaired.
The amount of time a module will remain incapacitated for differs for each module, but when a module loses all of its HP, it's considered destroyed until the end.
Okay, so this information is incorrect. I wanted to wait until they're finished to say anything. So that information is incorrect. Now, I'll get into details why. So as you're doing damage to a module, say a main gun, a torpedo tube, right? As you're doing damage to it from full lower, the lower the HP goes, the more likely you will damage the module, quote unquote. You'll put it in a damaged state where it's not able to operate, but it's still able to be, you're able to repair it yourself using a damage control party to get it back up and running. And when it's in that state for main guns, it's 20 seconds. And for torpedoes, it's 15 seconds. Now, when a module like the main gun or torpedo loses all of its HP, it gets into what they call a critically damaged state where it is not able to get repaired by a damage control party. And that takes 45 seconds for it to come back to where you're able to use it again. And when it does come back, it comes back at 50% of its max HP. Now, for submarines, their sonar can be damaged for 30 seconds, but they cannot be critically damaged. And I wanted to mention there. Something that they don't talk about in this video really at all is about how long an engine and a rudder get knocked out. So I did a few tests to be able to confirm this information. So on all classes, so battleships, cruisers, destroyers, submarines, and aircraft carriers, the engine room, when it gets knocked out, it's down for 60 seconds, and the rudder is down for 40 seconds. And this is during the time when you're able to use a damage control party to repair them to get them back to full effectiveness. Now, if you don't have a damage control party up at the time, that means that you're not going to be able to be moving with the engine being out. And if the rudder is stuck in like a turning position, that means you'll just be doing circles during that period or just going straight. But luckily, you can't get them fully destroyed, because if you did, it wouldn't be as much fun. But there are modules in the game that help you not get fully knocked out all the way, and that's on destroyers, cruisers, and submarines, and it's called Last Stand. It makes it where no matter what, even if they are damaged, you still keep way more effectiveness than you would normally.
One should remember that modules in our game can be divided into destructible and indestructible types. The engine room and steering gears are indestructible modules. All the other modules can be destroyed.
The steering
That information's wrong.
gears and engine of a ship can be disabled only temporarily. This has
That is true for the engine room and steering gear, as well as the ping for submarines.
been done to make playing more enjoyable. It would be unpleasant to be disabled in the middle of a map and have to wait until the battle is over only because your engine room has been completely destroyed.
Each module has a different amount of HP, and modules have different levels of usefulness in battle. But there is one very special module. It's the only module that's connected to the ship's HP bar, the magazine.
The magazine is still technically in the game, but now it's a citadel. The mechanic they're about to explain is called detonations. Detonations are no longer a thing in World of Warships. It used to be a RNG mechanic, but now that is out of the game, so that is no longer a thing. So we're just going to skip that segment of the video. There is no longer detonations.
There is a perfect countermeasurement that can signal.
Up until now, we've been talking about shells hitting an unarmored ship. In the next episode, we're going to tell you about another important aspect of inflicting damage: armor penetration.
If the video was useful to you,
Yep, so we'll be going over that in the future as well. But if you guys have any questions about the modules or anything in World of Warships, let me know in the comments down below. And let me know what you guys think of these sort of videos, if they're helping you guys out with the How It Works series, or if you have any tidbits of information as well. I'll see you guys in the next How It Works video. Thank you all for watching, liking the video, as well as subscribing.